with short bhajan, Jai Radha Madhav. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Shamasundar ki jai, Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Karantaraj Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachanine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pastaja Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. So tonight we will discuss a little something from Bhagavad Gita. We are traveling actually to the universities and trying to introduce the college students to Bhagavad Gita and trying to encourage them to take a copy home for their personal study. So generally we approach them with the Bhagavad Gita and we tell them that this is an ancient text which is the definitive book on self-realization. And we ask the students, would you like to take a look at the book? What do you think a most common reply is when we tell them, this is the definitive book on self-realization, can we show it to you? I don't have time. No, thank you. What is self-realization? Well, a few students will say, I already have a Bhagavad Gita. Right. How do you pronounce that? A most common answer is a variation of all the above. Basically, they say, when, this is about self-realization, can we show it to you? Basically, a lot of students say, I'm not interested. Why would a person not be interested in self-realization? If somebody comes up to you and says, this is about self-realization, then your reply is, I'm not interested. Contaminated senses. Very nice. Yes, they probably think, oh, I already know everything, right? I don't need that. Anything else? Yeah, it's like, but what in the world is self-realization? So Krishna addressed this sad situation in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna was himself in the same mode of perplexity, the same mode of ignorance. And he could not figure out what to do. He wasn't sure, should I fight this war or should I not fight this war? All based on one simple fact. What was causing Arjuna's incredible indecisiveness? How many people here have ever had to make a decision and you couldn't make a decision? You were indecisive. Yeah. So Arjuna was experiencing a very serious bout of indecisiveness. And what was the cause of Arjuna's indecisiveness? Attachments, worldly attachments. Fear to commit sin, to make the wrong decision. Exactly, these things were there. Krishna pinpointed Arjuna's problem. Misplaced compassion. Not knowing what his real duty is. All these answers are correct, but there's a foundational cause of all these symptoms that you just listed. Stress was there for sure. Yes, he saw the body's not the soul. Krishna said, your problem is that you don't know who you are. When Arjuna was identifying as a state warrior, that was his job, you know? He was a state warrior. It was actually his duty to go to war. When he was identifying as a state warrior, then he was in the mood, yes, I must fight. I cannot go AWOL, right? It's illegal to go AWOL, absent without leave. But when he toggled over here and he identified himself as a family man, then he said, I cannot fight this war and I should not fight this war. Because as a family man, I can't kill my relatives and friends and elders. So this was Arjuna's difficulty. He was toggling between different conceptions of the self. He was toggling between different identities of the self. And that's why he was indecisive, because he couldn't figure out what's the correct thing to do. What is in my best self-interest? Because we're not sure if choice A or choice B is going to be the most beneficial for me. So now Arjuna, in a state of humility, after Krishna chastises him and tells him that your problem is you don't know who you are, Arjuna inquires as to what causes a person to be in such ignorance. What causes a person to do things that aren't actually in their self-interest. So we'll look at the latter part of chapter 3, and Krishna tells Arjuna that what is the enemy of the self? The enemy of the self, the all-devouring, sinful enemy of this world, Krishna says, is simply lust. Lust means material desire. Desire based on an improper definition or conception of the self. We're all misidentifying the self. Even though deep down inside, we have an understanding of who we are. We don't say, for example, I body. Right? How many people speak like that? I body. We say, my body. My body is tired. We don't say, I nose. Even a child doesn't do that. Small child. My nose, your nose. We're identifying ourselves as the body. We're walking around behaving in life as though we are the body, but we don't speak like that. Nobody says, I body. They say, my body. Many people identify with their possessions. Some people are so attached that they identify with their possessions. But again, we don't speak like that. How many people say, I house? We say, my house. Or I car. We say, my car. Right? We don't say, well, we do say, iPhone. Aha, herein lies the problem. Modern society is being taught iPhone, you screwdriver. We're identifying with our phone. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, this is a product of lust. Lust means material desire based on an improper conception of the self. And he continues to tell Arjuna that this lust is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. It cannot be satisfied. It is like a fire. If you ever try to feed a fire, the fire is asking for food, for fuel, and every time you give in and give it a little fuel, its appetite simply grows. So Krishna explains that lust is insatiable. Don't try to fulfill it. Don't try to satisfy it. Don't try to pay attention to it. Because as soon as you give it an inch, it takes a mile. Krishna says that the living entity's pure consciousness, why is lust our enemy? Because Krishna says the living entity's pure consciousness, the real I, becomes covered by their eternal enemy called lust. Completely covered. And in this way, the living entity is completely oblivious to their own identity. Krishna says that lust sits in different places in our senses. Somebody said contaminated senses. Yes, this is how they're contaminated. Lust sits in the senses, it sits in the mind, it sits in the intelligence. And in this way, it has its secret hiding places from which it attacks and covers the real knowledge of the living entity. Therefore, Krishna says, Arjuna, curb your enemy in the form of lust by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. He explains to Arjuna that higher than dull matter are the senses. Higher than the senses is the mind. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. And even higher than the intelligence is the real self, the soul. So he's given Arjuna a very nice overview of the definition of the self. And he's explained that the reason a person is not interested in self-realization, as I started off saying, we go to the universities and introduce students to the Bhagavad Gita, telling them that it's about self-realization, and too many of them say, I'm not interested. That means they've been victimized by their enemy in the form of lust. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sanat Kumar, speaking to Prithu Maharaj, says one very important statement. He says, there's no greater obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. We don't know what our self-interest is because we don't know what our self is. The human form of life is meant for self-realization. Actually, everybody's looking for a purpose. Why was I born? Right? Why was I born in this family, in this place, in this time, with this body? You know, everybody's so curious as to what is my purpose in life. But Krishna makes it very clear. It doesn't matter where you've been born. It doesn't matter who your parents are, what time or place it is. You only have one purpose. And that is to fulfill your self-interest. And what is that self-interest? It's self-realization. We find a lot of selfishness in this world, don't we? People are competing. They're competing for the oil. They're competing for the potable water. They're competing for land. They're competing for money. They're competing for natural resources. People are competing for positions. Football teams compete against each other. It's all about competition, competition, competition. Because everybody's selfish. I want this for me. I want this for my family. I want this for my nation. Why are people selfish? Where does that... I mean, every single person that's born. There's not a human being in all of history, past, present, or future, that isn't selfish. So where does that come from? Like part of our DNA or what? Like why everybody is born, doesn't matter what country, what economic class, what level of intelligence. I'm sorry? Yeah, we think we're so important, but that's my question. Why are we so selfish like that? It's an effect of Rajagun, okay? Yeah, we wanted to control things. The reason we're so selfish in the material world is because it's the nature of the soul to be selfish. But we're practicing a perverted form of selfishness. We're practicing a perverted form of selfishness because we're identifying with the body, with the nation, with the family, whatever it is. But the soul actually has its nature to be selfish, but on the proper level. And what is that selfishness? Because it sounds bad, right? Ooh, the soul is selfish? I thought the soul was supposed to be all wonderful, and yeah, the soul is. Selfishness has its positive prototype on the spiritual level. We'll give an example. Let's take the hand. How many people here have a hand? Okay, good. So when the hand is hungry, it's feeling very weak and tired and like it doesn't have good circulation. When it has a perverted understanding of their identity, the hand will look for food and pick it up all by itself. Is that very intelligent? But when the hand has a proper understanding of its identity, namely that I belong to a whole, I'm not an independent entity unto itself. I am a serving unit, part of a greater whole. Then it'll pick up that food. Instead of trying to enjoy it directly, it'll supply the food to the stomach. And by supplying food to the stomach, the hand has actually fulfilled its selfishness, its proper self-interest, by allowing the stomach to then digest the food and transport the nutrients to all the different cells of the body, and the hand becomes very strong and healthy. So I'm using this as an example that when the hand considers itself an independent unit unto itself, it practices selfishness, which turns out to be self-destructive. It's destructive to the self, the hand, and it's destructive to the whole, the body. When, instead, the hand becomes enlightened in self-realization and recognizes and admits that it is a serving unit, which is a part of the whole, namely the body, then the hand will properly deliver the food to the stomach and get nourished. And in this way, the hand's selfishness is in their self-interest. It's not self-destructive, and it's in the interest of the whole. So this is the perfection of selfishness. To understand what is my actual self-interest. How can I serve other people? Oh, there's so many problems in the world. The world needs me to come in and solve the problems. I have to perform humanitarian and altruistic activities and philanthropic activities and welfare activities. The world needs me to solve problems. How am I going to serve the world when I don't even know how to serve my own self-interest? Right? Therefore, Sanat Kumar said, as we already said earlier, there's no greater obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. So what he's saying is, if we take our time and energy, if we spend our time and energy on hearing other subject matters that are not about self-realization, then we are spending our time and energy and money improperly. We're wasting it. Right? If you spend $1, you don't have that dollar. If you spend an hour, you no longer have that hour. If you spend some energy, you no longer have that energy. So if we spend our time and money and energy and resources, etc., in hearing topics that have nothing to do with our self-realization, we're simply wasting. But if instead we spend that same time and energy and money and what have you for hearing about and learning about and speaking about self-realization, we're not spending any energy. Instead, what are we doing? We're investing. Right? If you spend $1, you've lost that dollar. But if you invest $1, you come back with $10. Right? To hear about our self-realization is actually an investment. It's not an expenditure. So Sanat Kumar said that if we think other subject matters are more pleasing to hear, then we will have lost the mission of human life. Unfortunately, the world is 100% geared for this misapplication of human form of life. Everywhere we look, everywhere we turn, everywhere we point our ears, what do we see? What do we hear? We simply hear sound vibrations and messages, subtle and gross, about sense gratification. Please engage your senses with this sense object, right? Drink this, smoke this, eat this, purchase this, consume this, enjoy this, exploit this. All the advertisements. This is your homework assignment, okay? It's actually an easy homework assignment. Every day, we see billboards, don't we, on the highway? Every day, on the internet, we see ads. On the TV, we see ads. In the newspapers and magazines, we see ads. So here's your homework assignment. Pay really close attention to all the different types of advertisements that you hear, like on the radio or however the sound waves are being produced. Pay attention to all the ads that you hear, that you see, that you read. Analyze them. What are they doing? Are they dragging a person's consciousness down to the material platform? Or are they uplifting a person's consciousness to the spiritual platform? So that's your homework assignment. Find 100 ads. It'll only probably take a couple of days because there's so much out. At every moment we're being bombarded by advertisements, right? So take the first 100 ads that happen to come your way and write down what percentage we're giving the message of sense gratification. So sound vibration is what dictates where our consciousness is going to be. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described that bondage to this material world and liberation from this material world are both affected by the same thing, meaning they both are brought about by the same process. Here's a soul. It can become bound to the material world, or it can become liberated from the material world. And the process for binding the soul and the process for liberating the soul is the same. And what is that process that can send the soul this side or that side? Yes, sound vibration. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, over and over and over again, stresses that the best interest, the self-interest of the human being, sva arta. Arta means something that has value. We put value on things. Oh, this is worth $100, this is worth $1,000. We become attached to things that we think have value, right? If something's worthless, we don't pay any attention to it. We each have our different set of values. I may value things, so I become attached to them and I want them. Somebody else may value, qualities like compassion and righteousness. So that's what they pursue. But we're all living life according to our value, where we put value, what we identify as having worth or value. So sva arta, sva means one's own, belonging to the self. So sva arta means self-interest, the real value. So Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly stresses that if somebody wants to pursue sva arta, one's actual self-interest, and this actually is the only purpose of human life, by the way. So if one wants to pursue the actual purpose of human life, sva arta, then they must lend their ears to hearing transcendental sound vibration. Arjuna, he was perplexed. He recognized that he had some problems on his hands. He could not figure out how to solve his problem. He came up with argument A, argument B, argument C. He tried this course of action, he tried this course of action, he tried a course of inaction. And despite all of his attempts, he couldn't find a solution. So in that broken state, Arjuna, big macho warrior, he broke down crying right there on the battlefield. How embarrassing. Soldier breaks down crying. But in complete that I cannot find a solution to my problems. I've exhausted my whole arsenal of solutions, and I could not find a solution to my problems. So now, in this broken condition, I'm falling at your feet and begging you, please accept me as your disciple and instruct me. That is where Bhagavad Gita actually begins. Bhagavad Gita begins in chapter 2, text 7, where Arjuna comes to this state of submitting to Krishna with all humility. Krishna then begins his instruction on self-realization. This is a big reason why when we go out to distribute Bhagavad Gita to students and we say to them, this is about self-realization, can we show it to you? They say, I'm not interested. Because most people have not become honest. Although everybody, raise your hand if you're not in this boat. But everybody is in this boat where they have experienced frustration after frustration after frustration in trying to solve the problems of life. Anybody not in that boat? Good. That means you're all candidates for the Bhagavad Gita because you're honest. That's what Arjuna is demonstrating. Until one is honest, that they can't figure out how to know what their self-interest is, they can't hear Bhagavad Gita. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam then, it's being, recommended very strongly that we lend our ears to hearing transcendental sound vibration. And it's said there, well, what should we be hearing? It says we should be hearing about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Now you might say, well, why should I be hearing about the pastimes of Lord Krishna? What does that have to do with anything? Well, as we said, how the hand is a part of the body, and therefore it behooves the hand to understand the body and its proper relation with the body. Similarly, it's explained that we, the soul, are not just an independent unit unto itself. The soul, like the hand, is a serving unit of a greater whole. And it's explained that that greater whole is indeed Krishna. He's considered the soul of the soul, the self of the self. So just as it's in the best interest of the hand to feed the body so that the hand can become nourished, it's in the best interest of the self to serve Krishna, which means hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna. So the whole Srimad Bhagavatam brings one to this point of the 10th canto, in which the beautiful and sweet and adorable and attractive pastimes of Vraja Krishna are illustrated and explained. Right at the beginning of that canto, 10th canto, Parikshit Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj is hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Because he has 7 days to live, and that was his decision. I'm going to spend the last 7 days of my life hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So he is speaking with Shukadeva Goswami, who's instructing him, and Parikshit says that this hearing of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord is just like nectar. Who would not be willing to listen to these narrations except a person who is a butcher or who is killing their own self? He uses the word atmaha. Atmaha means killer of the self. So this is the position of most people in the world. Unfortunately, most people in the world are actually killing their own selves, by not listening to and hearing the pastimes of the Lord. So this is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. This ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, this institution differs from all other religious or spiritual institutions. You can go to any temple, any church, any mosque, any synagogue, any educational institution, and you will not find there what you find here. And what do you find here? The opportunity to hear and chant about the name, fame, glories, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Prabhupada begged his followers to distribute this knowledge to the public because he said this is the highest welfare activity, right? If somebody doesn't know who they are, if they're not educated in this science of Krishna consciousness, self-realization, how are they going to be happy? How is the hand going to be happy if it doesn't supply food to the body? So how is the living entity, doesn't matter where they are, what position they're situated in, how are they ever going to be happy if they're not serving Krishna, if they're not performing what's called devotional service? So this is our disease, is that we're not convinced that my happiness only lies in devotional service. So this is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is considered like the ABCs. Bhagavad Gita is the knowledge spoken by Krishna simply to convince us that our highest self-interest is to engage in devotional service. It took 18 chapters. Right there on the battlefield, they pushed the pause button so Krishna could have a discussion with Arjuna. Everybody else is ready to fight, and Arjuna goes on a mental trip. So Krishna had to instruct Arjuna, and through Arjuna he's instructing all of us. It took 18 chapters for Arjuna to be thoroughly convinced, to be completely purged of all doubts, of all misgivings, of all weaknesses of the heart, of all lack of convictions, of all lack of faith. It took 18 chapters for Arjuna to come to that platform of full conviction where he said, yes, sir, to Krishna. I will do devotional service. That means I will do what you ask me to do. So we're actually in good company with Arjuna when we realize I have so many doubts, I have so many misgivings, I have so many questions. Well, Arjuna also did. And as he overcame his doubts and misgivings, so can all of us, simply by studying the Bhagavad Gita and applying the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in the association of devotees. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, came 500 years ago, and he propagated the Harinam Sankirtan movement, and he taught that all our misgivings, all our doubts, all our ignorance about who we are and what our relationship is with Krishna, what our duty and real duty in life is, that this can all be dissolved by transcendental sound vibration. As we said earlier, sound vibration either sends us into bondage or it sends us into liberation. So that's the power of the Hare Krishna mantra, that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By regularly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra each and every day, one not only attains liberation from the material world, but they attain something much, much higher, and that is Krishna Prema. So you all know this. This isn't news to you, but yet we have to hear this every day and be reminded and be convinced, because how many of us are actually 24/7 committed to Krishna? We're part-timers, right? 1 minute for Krishna, 2 minutes for me, right? $1 for Krishna, $10 for me. We're part-timers, but part-time won't work. Ultimately, Krishna wants 24/7. So by keeping good association with devotees, hearing properly, and chanting properly, each and every one of us can gradually become elevated in self-realization and perfect this human form of life. So we'll stop there and leave a few minutes to see if there's any questions or comments. Okay, well, if there's no questions, we're going to have to assume that everybody completely agrees. So before you leave, we'll be standing at the back door, and we're going to have a clipboard. And everyone who exits the room is going to sign their name on the dotted line. Yes, we're going to have you sign on the dotted line that you vow to become 24/7 engaged in Krishna's devotional service, because you're now fully self-realized and convinced. Because nobody has any questions, so that means you're thoroughly convinced. Okay, somebody doesn't want to sign on the dotted line. Okay, you have a question? Oh, over here. Hare Krishna. Okay, the question is why today the term, especially among youth, is about self-development instead of self-realization. Well, what does it mean to develop? Like, we have a building here, right? It's already here, but we're going to develop it. We're going to improve it. We're going to expand it. We're going to make it bigger and better. So we're taking something that exists and we're going to improve it. But self-realization implies something very different. See, in self-development, we're being very proud that, well, I already know who I am. Now I'm just going to improve on that really wonderful thing that I am. You know? But self-realization means I haven't the foggiest idea who I am. I have to go find myself and realize myself. So it takes, like I already mentioned earlier, it takes the humility that Arjuna displayed. We're not progressing on the path of self-realization and Krishna consciousness because we haven't come to that level of humility. We might have some curiosity and some intellectual interest and some religious piety. But how many of us have actually done what Arjuna did? Broke down crying that I cannot find a solution to my problems. Krishna, help! That is self-realization. If you're not on that level, you're not even a candidate for self-realization. You can go join the self-development society. You know, it's kind of like wanting the kingdom of God without God. So self-realization means you're going to realize God. The hand can't realize its identity unless it realizes the identity of the body. So self-realization and God realization go hand in hand. You cannot have self-realization without God realization, because we are a servant of Krishna. So people who want to deny that my real identity is only in connection with God, they go some other route, like self-development, because we don't need God for that. So it's just another cheating invention to make it sound spiritual, like, wow, that's cool, man, we're doing self-development, you know? But it's actually taking people away from Krishna. We will say, no, the self is not independent from Krishna. I do remember one time in New Vrindavan, Bhakti Marg Swami was just talking about dramas, because he likes to direct dramas, and he said, yeah, whenever it's time for drama, what do you call it, like when you want to try out for a role, everybody wants to be Hiranyakashipu. Everybody wants to be the bad guy, you know? So yeah, there's some attraction to the bad guy. In Krishna consciousness, we might even applaud the demons in Krishna book, because they actually are playing a role in that. By them being such wonderful demons, it brings out the hero Krishna to come and show his stuff, you know, and like show off his martial arts or whatever and win the game. So it can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness, I suppose. Okay, there was a question here. Right. Right. Yes. Yes, thank you. So Krishna was educating Arjuna in Sambandha Jnana. Sambandha Jnana means understanding the relation between God, the living entity, the material energy, means understanding that we're a servant of God. Okay, I bet we could give an exam right now and everybody would get 100% A+. But Krishna didn't stop at Sambandha Jnana. Then he said to Arjuna, now you have to apply that Sambandha Jnana. That's called Abhideya Jnana. How to apply it. Therefore he said, Tadvini pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Now you have to apply that knowledge by approaching a spiritual master and rendering service. Many of us are stuck on the intellectual platform. There's 4 levels of hearing. The first is called Vikari. Vikari means I hear with the instrument. You know this thing called the ear? This is my instrument of hearing. So many of us hear on that level. Boing, boing, boing. It just bounces off the eardrum and that's it. Then the next level is called Pashyanti, means hearing with the mind. So that now when I go downstairs to have prasadam, I can recollect what I heard. Hey Prabhu, I can repeat what I heard in class today. I'm like a tape recorder. I can like play back, instant playback. I can think about it. Then the next level is called Madhyama, means hearing with the intelligence. Means analyzing what I heard, figuring out how I can apply it to my life. What does it actually mean? How, like that. And then the final level of hearing is called para. And that means hearing on the level of the conscious self. Hearing in such a way that the actual self becomes effective. It doesn't just stay an intellectual subject matter. We actually have applied it the self has actually applied it and gotten realization. So, yes, not only are we here in the Hare Krishna movement, Krishna consciousness movement, giving the highest knowledge and information, but we're also requesting people to practically apply this information. That's called practical devotional service. So unless and until we engage in practical devotional service, it'll just remain something that you can write out an exam and get an A+. But those exams will not get you back to Godhead. It's the change of heart. Change of heart doesn't happen from the intellectual platform. Change of heart comes from actual performance of humble devotional service. Shushusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevanat. That by serving those devotees who are free from all vice, great service is done. And by such service, one gains affinity for actually hearing the messages of Godhead. So service, service, service. We don't do enough service. We do too much intellectualizing. Projecting. Okay, very good question about what is humility. Many people think humility means thinking less of oneself. Like, oh, I'm worthless. Humility actually means thinking of oneself less. Humility does not mean thinking less of oneself, but it means thinking of oneself less. So some of us are always thinking about ourselves. I'm so great, I'm so wonderful, I deserve this, and I'm entitled to that. And other people are also thinking of themselves, very self-centered and self-possessed. I'm so depressed, nobody likes me, I'm a loser, I deserve better than this, why was I handed such a bad deal in this life? I'm, poor me. That's also pride. Both of those are pride. I'm a big person, look at me, and oh, I'm such a terrible person, look at me, I'm so miserable. They're both saying, look at me. So humility means stop looking at yourself, look at the whole. Stop looking at yourself and look at the whole. That is what humility means, that I belong to the whole. Look at the whole picture, not the little tiny part that you are, independent of the picture, big picture. Okay, I think we went a few minutes over time, so maybe we should stop there. If anybody else had questions, I apologize for not taking your questions. So thank you very much. Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Danakeli Mataji. Please give a big hand. Such a wonderful, enlightening lecture. Thank you so much. We are very, very happy for your association, for Pradeshwara Prabhu and Danakeli Mataji. They have been with us so many years, and very rarely we get to see them because they are traveling all across this country distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, and so you can see what that really means. Distributing means understanding what the books are also. Thanks again. If anybody has any questions you would like to discuss, you can meet Danakeli Mataji or Pradishra Prabhu, they are here a little longer tonight. Today's Sunday feast is sponsored by 3 families. Ramya Babu, seeking the blessings of devotees for this academic year. Ramya Babu is here. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Sheshadri Chintalapalli, seeking blessings for the daughter. Sheshadri Prabhu is here. Sheshadri? No. And Lata Oza, sponsoring Sunday feast in memory of her husband who has departed. Lata Mataji, is she here? No. So for the spiritual well-being of these families as well as for the well-being of the departed souls, let us chant the holy names of Krishna. Please chant after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all, and for next week's, the coming week's Sunday feast sponsorship, you can contact, Abhay is not here, so Sanjay Prabhu is here or Shyam is here. So we thank you for your support of our Sunday feast, which is prasadam distribution, which is same as engaging your tongue, just as chanting the holy names of Krishna. Distributing Krishna prasadam is highly spiritually beneficial. Thank you all. I think Shyam has some announcement to make.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Last month we, in our center, in our temple, we concluded 2 Mahayagna, if you look at that way. Janmashtami, we had fantastic celebration, and then we also did Viva Cultura Festival. So, a lot of people came, participated. We are collecting the feedback for each one of these events, and it has been very, very positive, very promising. See, the part of, so of course the one part is that we do these events, we do service, we attract the people, but then there is an after effect. After effect, what happens? You connect with these hundreds of thousands of people. In Janmashtami, in case if you don't know, we have 6,000 people who attended this program. So for us, it's like we have never done this level of program. Same way, Viva Cultura, we have about 700 people who came and attended this program. And then, a lot of people, they came to know about these through our social media. So, in effort to what we are doing, and a lot of you see what is being done outside. I mean, I'm sure every one of you appreciating the quality of work that is done, the way it's uplifting our overall infrastructure. Winter is approaching, but still there will be parking for everyone. So these all work requires participation and an investment, right? I would not say, I heard Mataji when she was talking about investing time versus spending time. So same spirit, I would say, investing in this temple, in this cause, versus spending. So I think everybody can do their best. Everybody can inspire few people who can help us this cause. Don't, here in this room and outside, you don't become element not to let others do that, because your job is to tell them. Their job is whether they do or they don't, that's their cause. But our job, your job, my job, everybody's job is to talk. Tell people this is what's happening and allow them to participate, right? So with that, we already have positive. So whenever we do this, we always get some people gets inspired and gives donation. So first of all, we have Amit Datta family, and that again one of the devotee inspired, and they came, they sponsored this brick. So this is a wonderful program. This is one you can talk to your friends, families, and ask them to participate in their names, their family names, sponsoring brick. So that's one. The second thing, we have our, our first family, I think I would call first family Mukunda and Shruti. So with everything they have going through, they have, they have a recent wedding, and I'm sure they have spent a lot of money, but still they found a way to make their pledge for this year. So they have pledged good amount, and they already paid $2,500 for this year. And then none other than our Kamlesh Prabhu. He's always there. Whether you know or you don't know this, a lot of things that we are doing here is because he is the one person standing behind us, standing supporting the banks, and beyond that, he this year he gave his place $5,000. So every one of them are coming forward, but then there is an element that all of us inspire them, work with them, talk to them for this cause. So right now our goal for this, we may be taking, if we don't raise all the fund, then we have to take a loan of $500,000 to get the phase 1 done. Our goal should be, without taking the loan, get the project done, right? So everyone can do it. Please talk to people, please talk to me. Again, it doesn't require a lot of intelligence. It's required a little bit of effort, and you work with me, I will ensure that we all will be successful. So a little bit of effort. So let's talk, let's take this inspiration. Again, with the supports like everybody is bringing, and if we all participate, it will become very successful. So with that, first of all, let's give a big hand to all the donors. And if you have any ideas, any suggestions, any feedback, please talk to us. And last but not the least, every one of you who participated, who helped in Janmashtami and Viva Cultura, with your support, we have been able to raise decent amount of money, which will help run our center. So thank you so much. Every little bit that you did it, with that, we raise some donations, and we will support our temple for this cause. So with that, thank you so much. Please see me if you have any ideas, feedback, and we look like working with you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.